My Social Studies Philosophy by Cassie Palumbo. Social studies is a wonderful subject because it recognizes that learners are diverse and it helps all students develop the knowledge, skills, perspectives that they need to be informed, productive, caring, responsible, and active citizens in their own communities and in the world. When thinking about the social studies teacher that I want to be, I can first look at the Ontario curriculum, in which the vision states that we are as teachers trying to create responsible and active citizens in which the communities that they belong to. This vision that we have as teachers to create critically thoughtful and informed citizens who act on issues and events in their community is a great starting point to which to develop our goals. Our goal then as teachers is to allow students the time to develop these inquiry-specific skills so that they can transfer the knowledge they developed in school into real life. In social studies specifically, we need to allow students to develop a sense of who they are, where they came from, and how they contribute to society. As a teacher, I must connect these pieces, putting together my vision, goals, citizenship framework to create the best lesson plan possible for my students. I must put together the big ideas and the framing questions, overall expectations, and specific expectations from the curriculum together to create the best lesson so that I can develop responsible and active citizens in each of my students. As a teacher, I must constantly come back to the citizenship education framework, which the Ontario curriculum sets out for us. It is based on 4 big pillars, such as active participation, allowing time for my students to work towards a common good in either the local, national, or global communities, also to give them time to develop a sense of personal identity as a member of their own community. Also, to look at their structures, power systems within their society, to analyze them critically. And finally, to look at their attributes, character traits, values, and habits of their own mind to develop a sense of inclusiveness, empathy, respect, and responsibility as students. In order to do all that the curriculum sets out to us as teachers, we must develop our own instructional approach that we will have within our teaching every single day. An inquiry approach to learning allows students to take control and responsibility for their own learning. The inquiry process allows students to gather information, ask questions, find out more, make connections to their real life, and hopefully take action on what they have learned, while all the while reflecting on what they are learning, how they are learning, and what they feel inside as a student. I would like to take this instructional approach as a teacher because I believe it is the most effective for my students to actually learn. Not for me to stand at the front of the class and dump all the information into their brain, but rather for them to have hands-on experiences in which they can direct their own learning towards their own interests. In order to facilitate my inquiry-based learning, I'm going to show you a picture of how I would generally set up a grade 3 to 4 classroom. During my practicum teaching block, I was placed in a grade 3 to 4 classroom which generally had this setup and which very much facilitated the type of inquiry-based teamwork and collaboration learning I want to set out as a teacher for my class. The student tables being grouped together really facilitates students being able to talk to each other, facilitate ideas, and bounce ideas off each other. The other main common areas, such as the rug, the round table, and the kidney table, also allow for this type of learning. The computers also are a general benefit for them to be able to look up more information and gather more evidence for what they are interested in learning. With reference to the specific grade level chosen, as I have chosen a grade 3 to 4 classroom, I can talk about the social studies specific inquiry skills that I would emphasize in teaching. I would first look to the Ontario curriculum, which lays out the overall expectations, related concepts, big ideas, framing questions, sample spatial skills and activities to be introduced and developed for each grade level and for each strand. From looking at these documents, I could set up an inquiry with my class revolved around how the environment has an impact on our daily lives. However, the grade 3s would be looking at more cause and consequence, whereas the grade 4s would be looking deeper into the interrelationships. These inquiry skills, which I would focus on in my class, come straight out of the Ontario curriculum documents for what their inquiry skills for their grade level should be focused on. As a grade 3-4 teacher, I could set up a cumulative end-of-the-year social studies inquiry that allows the students to explore their impact on the environment. Through the grade 3s, they could focus on how what they do causes a consequence in the environment For the grade 4s, they could look at their interrelationship with the environment and other living things around them. Since it is an inquiry project, I would allow them to go any way they please that interests them about the environment. However, I would be sure to check in with each of them individually to make sure that they are focused on the inquiry skills specific to their grade level. As a social studies teacher, another resource I could look at when starting my inquiry project with my classroom would be to look at the Ontario Elementary Social Studies Teachers Association website, which has an innumerable amount of resources. The website even has a section about how people affect the natural environment. This is a perfect resource for students to jump off of for their own inquiry projects, not to mention a great starting point for many teachers when starting to develop their social studies curriculum lessons. In my experience as a student, I was never involved in inquiry-based learning. Now, as a teacher, I can see its great benefit and hope to provide this type of learning style to my students. I don't want to be the teacher at the front of the classroom, dumping knowledge onto them, but however, give them more opportunities for their own hands-on learning to realize their learning potential. The great thing about the instructional approach of an inquiry-based learning is its ability to be so adaptable to cross-curricular connections along the way. One way I could integrate other subjects into their social studies learning is that specifically for my grade 3-4 project around the environment, they could do an oral presentation at the end to show not only how much they learned about their social studies, but also for their oral presentation mark in language. Another way to get a cross-curricular connection within that environment project would be to allow them to create a poster or anything else artistic so that we could also mix in art with their social studies. The possibilities are truly endless when it comes to the instructional approach of inquiry. It incorporates those big ideas, allows for opportunities to differentiate for different students, and also gives opportunities for assessment as, of, and for learning. As a social studies teacher, I hope to be more than what my teachers were to me as a student. As a student teacher, I got to see many inquiry-based opportunities around social studies and hope to do the same for my classroom as well. But always remembering as a teacher to go back to the Ontario Ministry of Education Resources to connect the curriculum to these fun ways of learning, such as inquiry. And finally, teaching is a work of heart. I hope to create responsible, active, and all-around awesome citizens in each of my students through my social studies teaching.